Welcome, one and all, to Tales from the Tapes. This is the show where we go into my archive and see what we can find. And whoa, we've got something big today! Today's tape is shelf number 10422 from the town of Bear, Delaware. Huh, Bear, Delaware. I love when town names rhyme with the state they're in, like... I can't think of any right now, but I'm sure there are others. Anyways, back to the subject. In order to understand what's so special about shelf number 10422, I need to let you know about this really weird time in television history, specifically in the late 80s and early 90s, where, for some reason, all three major networks were obsessed with making Disease of the Week movies. Not sure what those are? Well, don't worry, I'll explain. Disease of the Week movies are all the same. Somebody is living a happy life and there are no problems whatsoever. But then one day, they don't feel so good, so they go to the doctor. While there, the doctor informs the main character that they've contracted insert disease here, and then proceeds to go on a long, detailed explanation about what it is and what the symptoms are. The character battles this for the rest of the movie, then at the end there's another explanation for what the disease is, as well as some additional information on how to get even more information on what this is and how to fight it. The subjects of these movies can range from scleroderma, gangrene, mesothelioma, you know the type. And at some point they ran out of ideas, so they had to make one about dyslexia starring Kirk Douglas. I laugh because in this movie they treat it like a terminal condition, but it's actually kinda sweet. We'll talk about that some other time, but I'm sure right now you're all asking, why do I need to know this? Are we talking about some kind of cheap Disease of the Week movie? Yes and no. See, by 1993, the whole shtick of making a Disease of the Week movie was getting kinda stale. Even though audience members kept flocking to each new release, critics were getting pretty tired of having the same old thing pop up week after week on every channel. So it was up to CBS of all networks to shake things up. And they did with 1993's No Child of Mine, a movie that I like to call the Doki Doki Literature Club of the 1990s. And if that title doesn't hook you, I don't know what will. So let's pop it in the player and learn all about No Child of Mine.
Money is just not gonna fix this. Jesse is ridiculous, Mama, and nothing you or Daddy can buy him is gonna make that go away. How could you drag the names of my kids through the newspaper, Mama, for everybody to gawk at?
You came on the show same as me, Tammy.
Because you started it. We had to at least defend ourselves.
This movie fights dirty. It does everything it can to trick you into thinking this is gonna be another Disease of the Week movie, but BAM! This movie comes swinging out of left field, not once, but twice. When I first saw this thing, I was left slack-jawed at the end. I had no idea what to make of it. I knew I liked it, but I was amazed. The people behind No Child of Mine were so sick of all the typical tropes going on out there that they decided to take advantage of everybody's expectations and take them for a wild, wild ride. This movie tricks you into thinking it's going to be about Down syndrome. A young woman gives birth to twins. One of them just so happens to be born with Down syndrome. We get the typical explanation for what that is.
Your daughter is only 25, ma'am. Downs is rare with a woman that age. Amnio wouldn't have been worth the risk to the fetuses.
And by this point, you're probably thinking, alright, this is typical CBS fare, nothing new here. But then the conversation takes a different turn. The mother, her husband, and her parents are discussing whether or not they're capable of raising a Down syndrome baby. They're not talking about the kids struggling with the disease, it's all about the parents. This is the first sign that something is wrong. Not within the story itself, but with the movie. Disease of the Week movies don't get this philosophical. And of course it's nothing deep, but the conversations always amount to, I'm sick! I don't know if I'm gonna survive!
Don't worry, just because you have this uncontrollable illness that none of us have ever heard about, we're all going to be here for you forever.
Yeah, but that's not gonna do any good. I'm hopeless. I may as well just give up on life.
No, don't say that. You've got a bright future ahead of you.
Yeah, we all love you so very much.
Don't give up on life. It's a wonderful thing.
You're right. I know I can do this. I know I can.
Witness the gripping tale of Vineyard Sorrows, only tonight on Lifetime TV.
And then that conversation repeats itself like 3 more times.
I need a drink.
We now return to No Child of Mine.
And yes, they're talking about a baby, so obviously the baby can't contribute to this conversation. And yes, the grandparents are indeed cheering the parents on, saying that they are capable of raising this kid, but things aren't going according to the formula. The parents are resisting. They want to put this kid up for adoption. Meanwhile, the grandparents, finally realizing that their daughter and her husband can't really take care of this kid, they decide that they're going to adopt the child instead. If this was any other film in this genre, it would have resulted in the parents saying yes, an exchange of happy tears, then the kid moving in causing some, at first, lighthearted situations, but then things slowly get more serious as time goes on. Nope, the kids reject, and they reject again and again and again. By this point, the audience is supposed to think, okay, they're going through a different avenue. They're using the disease of the weak tropes as sort of a framework for their own original story. It's actually a family drama, where there's no real bad guy per se, it's just that each side has a different point of view, and they don't seem to have a point of interest that they can compromise on. But nope, that's not right either. The more time goes on, the nastier the grandparents get. They can't stomach the fact that one of their grandchildren is not going to live under their roof. What happens is that the birth parents meet a set of foster parents that run a home for kids with this illness. Even though it's overcrowded and they don't have a lot of money, each child gets all the attention, love, and resources that they need to develop into functioning adults. The parents and grandparents get full visitation whenever they want, of course. It's just that the son will be raised here under the care of qualified experts. Everybody's happy with this, except the grandparents. They are not having it, so they escalate again and again and again, ruining the relationship that they had with their daughter and son-in-law. Every time you think that they're going to see the light and they're going to try to reconcile, nope, it gets 10 times worse. They even resort to publicly shaming the parents, bringing them onto this Oprah XP and exposing them to the world, all while twisting the narrative in their favor. This is the second twist. The disease of the weak is not actually Down syndrome, it's narcissism. No matter how often literally every other major character makes it clear that the kid's best interest is to move into this other house, the grandparents, especially the grandmother, won't go for it. It has to be their way and their way only. I've already mentioned that they resort to public shaming, but they also resort to guilt tripping, gaslighting, and kidnapping. They will ruin any relationship. They will destroy any reputation. As long as they get what they want, everything will be okay. And the movie makes it clear that the mom and dad aren't the only victims here. The mother's sister and her husband are being micromanaged by the grandmother, who wants to control every aspect of their life. And whenever somebody pushes back, she's the victim. She's the one under attack. Nothing is ever good enough for her unless she gets her way. She'll even go to the foster house and harass the parents there just because she's angry. And while the grandfather's complicit in these actions as well, there are some implications towards the end that he's not entirely on board with what's going on. There are some very small hints being dropped every so often that show maybe, just maybe, he's having second thoughts. But in the end, they don't mean anything because he's still doing the wrong thing. And spoiler alert, by the way, skip to here if you don't want any spoilers for this movie. Nobody gets a happy ending. The grandparents vow to resolve their evil ways and try to be new people, but the damage has been done. The mother and father have gone no contact forever, so the family is now smaller and the grandparents have to start all over with their other daughter and her husband, who still don't entirely trust them in the end. This movie has guts. And it really astounds me because this came from CBS. No shade against CBS or anything, it's just that, well, historically speaking, their made-for-TV movies have been some of the worst. When it came to Disease of the Weak movies, they tended to be boring, flat, and by the numbers, And hey, some of their other original offerings were Sin of Innocence, the incest movie. We're gonna talk about that one next time. So the fact that CBS of all networks was able to make something like this, where it lulls you into a false sense of security just to spring not one, but two major twists, I've got to applaud them. They did an amazing job.
You better think twice before you tear this family apart just to prove you're right.
And it seems like the critics agreed. The few reviews that I could find were quite positive. Now, I won't say that this movie is some kind of grand masterpiece or anything. It's definitely a made-for-TV movie with made-for-TV acting, but compared to its brethren, this is really something else. I bought the lot with this tape on eBay, and for this alone, it was worth the price. Though it's also worth noting that this lot also contained tapes with, I don't know, an airing of The Land Before Time 3 on Cartoon Network, and the airing of the drop pilot Fluffy Dogs on ABC. Pretty good stuff all around. So if you're looking for a blast from the past, I'd say that providing you know the context, check this movie out. But be sure you put 1993 at the end, because if you don't, you're gonna get the 1997 unrelated documentary, which is much less fun. It's very depressing, so be careful, okay? Well, folks, thanks for watching the video. What'd you guys think? Are you going to see No Child of Mine? And if so, are you excited? You should be. Although I guess I kind of ruined it for you now because that's kind of the surprise out the window. But oh well. Guess it's time to unwatch this video. Anyways, comment below and let me know because I'm always excited to hear what you guys have to say. And now it's time to thank our wonderful Patreon people, starting with our Masters of Fate. Chan 11, Drew the Stew, Kev Messick, MD the Dude, Platinum Bass, Quiet Chap, Ryan Williams, Timey, and Woody Woo. And now our executive producers, Aaron Vasquez, Albert Robinson, Blackjack, HR Hoffman, Indiscreet One, Orsinus, Ravioli Supremo, Unkale, and who else but Zane. If you too would like your name read at the end of every Media Mementos video, then why not consider donating to the Patreon? There's a fancy little link in the description below for you to check out. And if you want to get more involved in the Media Mementos fan community, down there we've also got a link to the Media Mementos Discord server. So stop on by and say hello. Okay, everybody, it's time to hint at what's coming next. Except, I already told you what's gonna be on the next episode of Tales from the Tapes. So all I'll say is, be afraid. Be very, very afraid. Alright everybody, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.
How are America's big food chains trying to change your eating habits?
I lost my shoes. Shoes.